Joining me now is Dan Smith with Vail Mountain Rescue. How are you doing this morning, Dan?
Tired.
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 And that's because you're out rescuing everyone when they make bad choices.
Apparently, we had 6 missions last week, 3 of which were yesterday, and 1 of which ended at 2 in the morning, and it was my lot to be the coordinator this last week, so I'm up all the time. So if I start to babble, please let me know. It was a week to drive your vehicle in the backcountry inappropriately. We had 1 motorcycle accident in which a motorcycle pinned a young man against another car at a party way up a little Vail Ridge. He went to the hospital.
Wow.
We had, and that was just yesterday, we had another motor vehicle accident above Sylvan Lake, and those roads back there are greasy, is a word that we'll use for when they're wet. And he went to the hospital, and we had 5 people roll a FJ Cruiser up above, right on Ptarmigan Pass, actually right on the county line between ourselves and Summit. They weren't, one guy had a leg cut, but the rest were okay. The backcountry roads are not like your backcountry road where it's paved and it's flat and it's Kansas or Nebraska or Florida. Ours go up and down a lot, and they're narrow, and they turn to 1 lane pretty quick. And when you get some rain on them, that surface turns to all sorts of things. Sometimes it turns to just sloppy goo, and you go about 1 mile an hour, and maybe you pull through. And sometimes it gets very fluid, and the road will throw you right off the road. And if that's 5 feet down, that's fine. If it's 150 feet down, it's going to be another problem. So,
since we were talking about the 150-foot drop there, Sylvan Lake, it is a treacherous drive. It's constantly winding, and then with the road conditions, like you said, they could get muddy and maybe give way like at a certain point as opposed to others. So what happened with the guy who he went off the edge?
Well, I think the road turned left and he went straight for reasons that are not known yet. When we go on these, we don't go alone. On a typical mission, there were 9 of us on that Sylvan Lake mission. There were probably 8 firefighters. There were 3 ambulance crew, and I think 1 sheriff's deputy. And that's kind of low. We've done some missions here recently where one last week, we had 38 people out on it, on a kayak mission.
Wow.
By the time you get our folks and Vail Fire and Eagle River Fire, and add 4 Avon cops and 4 officers from Vail and 2 sheriff's deputies.
The whole party out
there.
Yeah,
it goes up because somebody's seen the guy come out of the boat, they've seen him in the water, and that's the last anybody's seen of him. So we don't know where he is. This gentleman lost it above Dowd and body surfed Dowd Chutes all the way down, which it's an adventure.
Dowd Chutes is like one of the most dangerous.
I'm not sure body surfing it is the preferred way to go down, but he was all right. He was bouncing around a little bit and had some superficial cuts. He floated out west of Kayak Crossing, so you're checking all the banks. You've got people on all the bridges all the way down to Edwards. You probably have somebody down at the sewer plant, which is where we normally pull boats out. So you've got an awful lot of people involved, and probably $2.5 million worth of equipment looking for 1 guy, and that's the way the system is set up, and it works very well. I mean, we each do our little piece, and we've had good outcomes with everything this year. Knock on wood. So it's an interesting business.
Now, what's the most common rescue that you do?
Oh, the MVAs last week. Most common is hikers. You get a hiker that gets lost or mildly injured ankle, leg, extremity injuries. 3-4 miles out on a trail, and those are pretty simple. We'll use 4 people if we have a good location on the person, and go out, get them, bring them back. If they're seriously injured, we may do that with a helicopter. With National Guard, the High Altitude Aviation Training Site, will insert us. Then we'll pull the patient out with the hoist, or we'll have Flight for Life come in. And if we use the hoist and the Guard helicopter, we'll meet Flight for Life someplace, transfer the patient. Flights doesn't have the capability to hoist.
So we were kind of talking about this before, that you guys are the ones who go where the vehicles can't, where the ambulances
We go where the highway ends, to quote Shill Silverstein. About 25 yards off the road is pretty much ours, but now we share that with our friends in the various fire departments, because they have that jurisdiction, and the Sheriff's Department, which we're part of, Sheriff's Office, which we're part of, which has that jurisdiction as well. So it's a combination event. All the agencies in the valley do their part which varies from mission to mission.
Now, there's so many people in town for 4th of July.
Oh, yes.
What advice do you have for people that are going rafting and hiking or maybe driving on those treacherous roads?
Well, if you're going rafting, go with a guide. If you're our guest, unless you're world-class kayaker or world-class rafter, this is world-class water.
Right.
You need to be with one of the many guide services we have up here, all of which are excellent. Many of their guides are on our team. If you're going to drive the backcountry roads, please get a map. It's nice if you get in trouble, you can tell us where you are, or someone else can tell us where you are. And don't do anything alone. Right. Most of the kayakers we have interesting times with have done something alone. They don't have a boat buddy with them.
Right.
And so when they pitch out of the boat, nobody's there to watch unless somebody happens to be coming down, and this could cause a bad outcome.
So let's say somebody needs to get a hold of you, vailmountainrescue.org.
911.
911.
911. We're eventually at the other end of the line. We run through the same dispatch service everybody else does.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people pay a little bit more attention to what they're doing, and also paying attention to the weather, I think, is a big thing too.
The weather we're back in the normal 3 o'clock in the afternoon rain.
Yep.
So if you go hiking this morning, it's a beautiful morning out there, a little chilly. Make sure you take rain gear for coming back this afternoon because you'll probably need it.
Dan, thank you so much for joining me
pleasure.
today. Speaking of the weather, Mark Sassy has a look at that coming up for you to let you know if it's going to rain on you this afternoon.